Welcome to this great adventure of two sisters.
Absolutely not. Hey guys, welcome to the Regina Kids podcast. I am your host, Maxie.
With her lovely younger sister, Rita the Ham.
And here on the podcast, as you can see, sibling relationships can be loving and sometimes a bit
dramatic.
Affect me, please. Complicated. So, join us every week as we explore all aspects of having a sibling.
Come be our sibling.
Yeah, exactly. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Regina Kids podcast.
Episode 2. Hey, everybody. Hello, my siblings.
So, how are you doing today, sibling?
I'm good. No complaints here.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm good too. This today's show entitled Daddy's Girls is going to be about our dad. So,
you call him Dad, I call him Daddy.
Whatever. So, this might be a semi-difficult podcast for me to get through. I don't know how you feel about it, but just speaking for myself. But before we get started, make sure that you guys like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Also, if you want to send us a sib note, that's a sibling note, you can do it at our Gmail, which is Regina's Kids Podcast at gmail.com. So, as we stated previously in our first episode, we were raised by a single mother. Granted, that's what we named the podcast after. So it'll be a whole nother show about Regina. And, maybe, some episodes down, we could probably
get her
on the show, or maybe even just get a video or something like that. Mm-hmm. But just some background. My dad and my mom got married. They're fairly young. Well, she was definitely young. She was 16 years old.
Saying fairly young would be like, oh, they both was in their 20s. No, they was young as hell.
Well, he was in his 20s, but
no, he wasn't. Not yet.
Yes, he was.
Was
he? He's 5 years. He's 5 years older than Mom. So she was 16. He was 21.
Oh yeah, you're right. Never
mind. According to my mom, she met him and he was just so fine that she had to marry him and have babies. That was 16-year-old talk.
Cute kids.
Right. That was 16-year-old talk, basically. She graduated early from high school and she had the option to go to college or to spend the money that my grandmother saved for her to get married. She chose to get married. So
she said, I want that man.
So at 16, my grandmother signed for her to be married to my dad, who at the time was just getting home from boot camp, and 3 months later, he got shipped off to Japan. Okay. So, what?
Okinawa, Japan. That's where he was.
I said Japan.
I know. I was just saying where he was in Japan. It was Okinawa.
Okay. Do you know where that's at?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. Okay.
In Japan.
Okay. So,
what else you wanted me to say? Is in Japan.
A little background on them.
Let me pull the map.
I am actually named after my dad. So his name is MAXIE Norman. I'm MAXIE Norman with an I. So that's a cute little story. He used to like to run the streets a lot, and him and my mom made a bet that if he was there the day that I was born, then whether I was a boy or a girl, she would name him after. I would be the kid would be named after him. Well, as luck would have it, my dad was actually there when I was born, and he actually helped deliver me. I wasn't born in the hospital. My mom didn't make it to the hospital. I was actually born at home. So he was there when I was born, helped deliver me, and yeah,
Could you
that's
imagine?
how I got my name.
Can you imagine like when that happened, how he like probably was saying, "I told you so." Oh my god! I wish I was a fly on the wall.
So we titled this show Daddy's Girls because we both have different relationships when it came to our dad. And actually, he passed away in April of 2016. So he's also no longer here with us. And it's just important to talk about like the different type of relationships that siblings have with their parents, because sometimes people assume that they're all treated equally, and they're not. Sometimes parents have their favorites, and sometimes different things in life that you go through with your parents don't affect one kid the way it affects the other kid. So that was just a little background on the beginning, I guess you could say, as far as that goes with me and my dad and how I got my name and everything. And as luck would have it, not only do I have his name,
She
I'm
got
told I look the most like him. I can remember going back to his hometown in Southern Illinois and people walking up to me and saying, "Oh, you must be," like they just knew that I was a part of that family. Like they used to call him Sweets, so they'd be like, "Oh, you must be Sweets kid," and I'm thinking like, "Who the hell is Sweets?" I had to ask my mom, like, "Who is that?" Like, I don't know who that is. Oh, that's your daddy's nickname, and all the girls smiling and stuff like that. So he was definitely a charmer, to say the least. So
no, not even to say the least. Just say that's exactly what he would charm the hell out of anybody. He don't care if you was a wife, somebody's girlfriend. Like it didn't matter.
so Rita, we'll discuss more in depth, like different ups and downs and turns and twists that we had with our dad. But tell me about your relationship. Like, how did you feel you and dad's relationship was?
It was. I would say up. I would say up, then down for a long time, then finally up again. I would have to say for our relationship because growing up, some of my very first memories it was, hanging out with him, watching sci-fi, uh, eating grapes in the living room, shit, stuff like that. You know what I mean? Um, then once they got divorced, he was gone, so it was like that major detachment, and he was. I wouldn't say like that he was only around at times because we was forced to go to our grandmother's house.
Hmm. So, how did you feel about your relationship at that time?
I mean, I was pissed off most of the time. Like I was genuinely just pissed off because I just didn't understand. And then it was just like especially like when we were like in grade school and people like one his wife at the time, her family would be like, "Oh, we love your dad. We love Uncle Max." And I'm like, I ain't seen this nigga in a year. Like, you know what I mean? So it was. I mean, I was really pissed off for a long time.
And see, that's what I mean by like how different kids can have different experiences because I think I stopped caring about him being around maybe when I was 10 years old. I think I wrote him a letter when I was 10 years old asking him to spend time with me for my 10th birthday. And if he didn't show up, then I didn't have to be bothered with him no more. And that's how I kept it. I didn't too much get along with people on my dad's side of the family, even with us being forced to be at my grandmother's house. So I didn't have the greatest relationship with any of them. So um, we had a strained relationship probably from 10 till I was like 21, 22 years old. Like it
Mm.
didn't bother me. Like I didn't spend time over his mother's house. So I didn't see him that much at all, period. I mean, I would hear stories and stuff like that, or your dad want to see you, but it didn't bother. No, I wrote the letter when I was 10, and I was done. So that was the thing for me. When did you feel like y'all relationship got better?
My senior year of high school, because I remember going down, taking the train down to where he was living at the time, and I pretty much had it out with him. Um, and I think after that, it started to get better little by little.
Okay. Well, like for me, like I said, we were strained for 10 years. So um, when I got into my 20s, I kind of got more in tune with religion. I'm not gonna say that I'm like super religious. I'm not a big church girl. I believe in God. I pray. I'm what people would call like when they say they're more spiritual. I'm not religious. Like I don't feel I need to be in the tabernacle. I mean
Right.
that's totally gonna be a different show because um my sibling over here is a little church girl at heart. So we
Yeah.
definitely that we definitely gonna dive in deep to the different aspects of being raised, people being raised in the church versus people being forced to go to church, which was kind of my experience until I you know started going to church on my own
Hmm.
and finding God and stuff like that. So when I did um, go to church at a particular moment in my life, and I got a better understanding of myself, and I had to do some healing in that aspect, and had to learn that basically your parents are they're just human beings that have their own life and their own story, and they still make mistakes and
Hmm.
things of that nature. I really started to build a relationship with my father and his mother at that time. So um, in my 20s, I think that's when our relationship got better because I pretty much put it out there like we have to start fresh from right here. Like you can't tell me nothing. You can't tell me how to live my life. You can't tell me nothing about my life because you weren't there. So I think he took that as as long as we can be good at this point and move forward in life, then we were okay. Because after that point, that became kind of like my best friend. Like we was really like twins in it up.
Right.
At that point, like every he's a pretty much a Christmas baby, born in December at the end of December. So it was Christmases and Father's Days and stuff like that was really a celebration for us to always spend time with him and stuff like that. I remember like just recently, um, because the way me and my dad started to get our relationship back, we started writing letters back and forth. So it was a bunch of letters and birthday cards and stuff like that. That that was our way of communicating until I kind of got over myself and was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go spend time with him. So that was really like a growing, I guess you could say, a growing pain for me because I had to get out my own way in order for us to be able to mend that relationship.
Yeah.
Um, because I felt like it was something that I needed, and I know for a lot of people, they don't feel the need to mend their relationships with their parents, especially people who have strained relationships with their fathers. Like they just basically write them off and keep it moving. But I know for me, um, it wasn't so much as needing that father figure in my life. I think it was so much as just getting over the situation and trying to heal from it. Because I felt like with you and our older sister, he had a better relationship with y'all than he had with me. So that was, pretty much my experience.
I mean, I get that, but I don't know because we all had our own experiences with him. I mean, he honestly wasn't around. So the only time I seen him was I when I had to go to Granny house. So outside of that, I wouldn't have seen him.
I mean, it's just like that's what I say about like kids having different experiences and people experiencing different things with different people because,
And a lot
in my
of
mind, on the outside looking in, what?
I said a lot of times being at Granny house, he wasn't even there.
No. But, you know, when you grow up and you just, make up your own story in your mind, and that's the story I had. Like,
Yeah,
they spend more time with him, they got a better relationship, and, one day if I feel the need to fix that, then I will go forth and fix it.
yeah.
So,
Nah,
being that,
we did. Like, I mean, honestly, to be honest, no, I didn't spend just thinking back of how much time I actually spent with dad. I spent more time with him with you us being grown than I did growing up because I mean he ran the streets. So if I did see him for a brief moment or if I did hop in the car with him, I would end up with whoever he was with at that time and then right back at Granny house. So it was still not, you still wasn't even spending any time with him at all.
with that said, um, and it's not to be like a bashing session because I love my daddy
No,
to
no, not.
death.
I mean,
Like
it's just,
he really was. When I got over myself basically and realized that your parents are just human and they can only give you what they got and they can't really give you something that they ain't got. Like a lot of times people have like we don't realize that our parents have their own stories, they have their own situations, they have their own struggles. um with him being in the service and going overseas and coming back to the states and having his own struggles with drugs and stuff like that while growing up, which was something that it wasn't until I was a teenager that I realized how bad that situation was at the time. Then it's easier to understand now as an adult that yeah, okay, so they're just people and they can't give you something that they don't have. And the dynamics of his own household and the way that his mother was and the way that his father was, like it's
exactly.
hard to expect them to want to love us in this way that we haven't made up in our mind as how it should be. Sometimes people can't give you more. They can't give you more than what they already have. So that was that situation. But favorite memories of your dad? Like one of the biggest things that like when you think about him now that like makes you happy.
I have so many, it's really hard to choose from. Um, some of it is just like some simple things like he used to tell these jokes, and we'll just end up just be dying laughing just together. Um, but one of the ones that stands out the most is when I took him as my date to my Christmas party when I used to work for a hotel. And he said he had to put his slippery shoes on, which meant he was gonna be dancing all night. And he was literally, after that night, he was literally the talk of my job for almost a year. Everybody will ask about him.
And what happened at this party that made everybody want to ask about him? Because I know one thing about my dad. He was one of those people, like he could walk into a room and be
He was
unforgettable.
literally the party. He was the party. He danced with everybody's wife, girlfriend, all my coworkers. He was telling jokes. Like we just had a good old time to the point to where I'm like, okay, it's time to go. Like, to the point to where you like, all right, Dad, let's go. Everybody's gone. No more drinks. Like y'all stop giving him drinks. Like let's go. It's time to go. Like I had to drag him out of that party, but we had a really really good time.
He was just one of those people. Like some people um, can come into a room and make everybody happy and everybody smile, and he was just that person.
Yeah,
Like
he's
he
literally
is still
on that side. He's everybody's favorite uncle.
right. He to this day coined the favorite uncle because he was just happy go lucky all the time. So even like I can honestly say that like I've never seen him mad, like never, like never seen him mad. All and I don't know that because that was just my experience once we became twins again, and we was tied at the hip, and we always used to talk and have conversation. He was never mad. It was always,
Yeah,
you know, taking pictures and um daughter and daddy time and stuff like that, and just sit up and talk about everything. I never could get into the wrestling and the sci-fi. That is not my thing. That's not
oh
my
that
jam.
was
But um,
the
we did
sci-fi
have.
wrestling and the snacks. That was most definitely our stuff. You know what? One other memory that really stands out is when we tricked him that year. Was it was Father's Day, and we had lied and told him that like we don't know what happened to his gift. It was on the mail. It was in the mail on its way in the mail and all that. And he was ready to fight the mailman because he was like, "Where the hell is my gift?" Like I talked to the mailman yesterday, and he still ain't bring me my gift. And we was on the highway on our way down there, and then when we finally got there, he was like almost in tears because we surprised him so good. But that was one time where I just seen him kind of frustrated because he was like, I know for a fact my girl sent me something. And it ain't here yet. I get my shit on time. Like it is something he didn't blame us. He blamed the mail people.
Well, it was the male people. It's just that it's just those fun times. Like I know that we got so close with our dad that we was spoiling him to the point where his siblings was jealous. Like his siblings that was around him was like, your girls, your girls, your girls, your girls, always around doing this and that and whatever. And that's that goes to the point of how people have kids and they need to cultivate those relationships with their kids, even if you messed up when they're older. Like it should be up to that parent to reach out to their kids and try to fix that relationship. Like my uncle didn't have that relationship. He still to this day. don't have that relationship with his kids, and it's sad
Yeah,
because it's kind of like he got to be out here in this world by himself, and people don't think about that when they get older. Like, you might want to have your kids take care of you, or you might want them to care that you're getting older and that you might get sick or something like that.
exactly. I think my sibling note in that aspect is that, like, if you really want to get an understanding of who your parents are, you need to have that deep conversation of their experience growing up and the things that they honestly didn't receive from their parents, because like you had said earlier, they can't give you something that they don't have in them to give, or that they were never taught, or they didn't have. Because I remember when I was 17 and I went down there and me and him had a conversation. One of the things that stood out the most is that he never wanted to go to the military. Like,
Hmm.
it was something that he was forced into doing. And he just felt like everything he did as, growing up. And that was one of the reasons why they call him Sweetie, because he was such a sweet child and he was so well behaved and he did everything that his parents told him to do. He said, when I turn 18, I'm finna be buck wild. It is exactly what he had said to me. And he did exactly that.
He
He
definitely did, because he was
he
married
was yeah,
5 times in 33 and
yes.
a half years of his life.
Yeah, he
He was
was lit.
married.
I honestly believe from the time he turned 18 and went off to the military, he turned on his lit light and was lit that whole entire, all the way up until his death. He was lit.
Pretty much, and I guess that's something to live by too. Like, you got to live your life. Like, you can't um allow different things and circumstances stopping you from live your life, because every day ain't promised. And I know that, like, even with after when he passed away and all the drama surrounding
Yeah.
um all of that, which we'll get into that. Like, y'all got to stick around for the podcast for that
Or
story, because
you can go buy her book, Love You More. You can hear
yeah,
all about that in black and white.
definitely. But we will, once we get into my books and discussing grief and things like that, you'll get to hear, part of the story, as with everything that surrounded. Um, you know, that brings me to think about, like, death does bring a lot of stuff out of people. And I know plenty of people have plenty of, great stories behind when somebody passes away, and people have horror stories about funerals and stuff like that. So best
Yeah.
believe the story surrounding my dad's passing, it's very drama filled. It's
This
very drama
is
filled,
a Lifetime movie special.
possibly, but it's very traumatic, to say the least. It
Lifetime
took it
movie
took
special.
it took me a long it took quite a while for me to get those feelings out and be able to actually
Yeah.
mourn him properly. I guess I
Yeah.
could say that
Please
at
believe
the
it or
least.
not.
Because yeah,
I mean, it's one of the things to where you'll be like, did this really happen? Listen, if we didn't live it,
I think even telling the story to some people, they don't believe it.
nah.
So that's why I wrote it down in black and white. So it's forever there. But
Well,
yeah,
Maxie, what is your favorite memory?
one of my favorite memories is just me and my dad. Most of the times, the way that we spend time together would be just sitting at the kitchen table talking about books, or talking about different subjects, or watching TV, and just he loved tomatoes, so to be just sitting there eating sliced tomatoes, just having conversations to the wee hours of the morning and just laughing. It was really just that quality time and just talking about any and everything. So that's probably my the things that I hold on to the most. um when I moved last year and I was going through, you move and then you just pack up stuff and then, just doing a little spring cleaning. After I wrote my book, I was really, emotional and then feeling all the feels and in my feelings about my dad and with everything that surrounded his death. Neither one of us was able to like have a keepsake or anything like that. And that really brought me to feeling like, there's not an item,
Yeah.
because people always want something after somebody died, but there's not an item that's going to ever be sufficient enough to make you feel good that that person is no longer here.
Yeah.
So I was going through some papers and I actually found like all of the birthday cards and stuff like that 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 I had saved from that time when we were just communicating by mail. So that just made me feel good to know that, even through our ups and downs and turnarounds, that my dad really loved me and I loved him too. And, I used to hate people always, oh my God, you look like him and all of this and all of that, especially after he passed away. But now it's like, it kind of, makes me smile every time I post a picture or something like that and somebody be like, yeah, that's definitely your twin.
Right.
So, I feel honored to be telling my story. Like, yeah, I was born at home and I was delivered by my dad and, you know, I got his whole face and his whole name. So,
I think that was the hardest part of the situation, not being able to really have um something tangible of his like that he either wore or something like that that he used on a daily basis.
yeah, but that was, I don't know as far as that go for you, but for me that was part of my healing, like to let me know that like you have to cherish
Yeah.
people while they're here, because you're not gonna be able to get you're not always gonna be privy to an item or something
Yeah.
that
No,
that
that's
they had that they cherished or something like that. You're just not
mhm.
gonna get that. The biggest things I'm gonna ever have is my memories and the times we shared and
Right.
the laughs and the jokes, because like you said, he always was trying to tell a funny joke and stuff like that.
Not the cleanest of jokes, but they was some good jokes. Or the Battle of the Parents, classic.
Yeah, because even after our parents were divorced, they still had this kind of back and forth type of situation when they would talk about each other, and not in like a bad way, but in like a fun way. They would go back and forth, and to this day, um, my
Yes.
mom and my dad got divorced in the '80s,
80.
and my mom was still, you'll still catch her like, that's my damn husband, lady. You ain't had a husband in 30 years, like, but to each his own, I guess.
Right.
So Rita, what do you have another sib note for the people today?
Um, let's see. Okay. Um, I would say my sib note is, if you do have parents that are still living that you have some kind of disconnect with, fix it. Do what you can to fix it. I know that it's a two-way street, but one thing about that is that if you do what you can to try to fix it and it still don't work, if something does happen to that parent, you can still not have any type of regret. So not having that, man, I wish I would have had this conversation, or I would have did this different. Just try to fix it.
So those woulda, should, couldas, and
Right.
all of those. So again, Like and subscribe on all podcast platforms. You can always drop us a sib note at our email, which is reginakidspodcast@gmail.com. And as always, I'll leave you guys with we'll continue to glow through whatever it is we're going
Go
through.
through.
And thank you again for joining us for another episode of Regina Kids.
Bye.